They lied to you about discipline, told you it's about feeling motivated, waking up early, making to-do lists, simple tricks. But the truth? Discipline is war, and you're losing it every day. If you don't govern your mind, your impulses will govern you, leaving you weak, scattered, defeated. Machiavelli saw through this illusion centuries ago, and now it's your turn. Discipline yourself or someone else will. This isn't motivation, this is survival. You've been misled. From the time you took your first steps, you were told discipline was about trying harder. Work harder when you're tired. Wake up early, make a list, stick to it. As if tidying up the surface could fix the cracks buried deep in the foundation. But the truth? It's far more brutal than anyone ever told you. Discipline isn't a random effort. It's not about waking up every day magically motivated. Discipline is war, an internal war. And in this war, you're either the commander of your mind or you're its captive. Either you lead like a prince guiding his army, or you will be overrun by your own weaknesses. Most people live like collapsing cities, overrun by impulses, broken by their own disorder. They fall prey to the first distraction that passes. They don't see it yet, but without structure and self-imposed order, there is no strength, no freedom, only constant surrender to chaos. Niccolo Machiavelli, often misunderstood and underestimated, saw this with sharp clarity. While the world speaks of thinking positive and believing in yourself, Machiavelli studied human nature like a surgeon studies disease. He knew the world doesn't reward the good-hearted, it rewards the disciplined, those who remain calm, controlled, and focused even when surrounded by noise, pressure, and temptation. To him, discipline wasn't a moral ideal or some pretty virtue, it was a necessity, a tool for survival. Because whether you're a ruler or a worker, without discipline, you fall the same way into ruin. And here's the harshest truth. The moment you stop controlling yourself, you give away your future. To what? To the strongest impulse of the moment. To fear. To laziness. To anyone or anything louder than your will. Life, like power, is never unoccupied. Either you take your place with complete authority, or you will be ruled. If you think discipline means waking up early only when you're in the mood, forget it. If you think wanting something is enough to stay on course, forget it. This message isn't for those looking for soft answers. It's for those ready to shape themselves the way a blade is forged, under heat, pressure, and precision. Real discipline demands constant awareness. It's a strategy, a daily blueprint, a fortress you build within yourself, a place where luck holds no influence and chaos finds no way in. Today you'll understand why Machiavelli guarded the concept of discipline like a military secret. Not as an optional idea, but as the very foundation of power. And if you have the strength to apply what you learn here, you won't walk away from the same person. Machiavelli never wrote to soothe the weak. He wrote to train thinkers, tacticians, people ready to face the hard truth behind real power. So if you want to understand discipline from a Machiavellian perspective, you need to let go of the comforting myths about willpower and motivation. To Machiavelli, discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about how you operate. It's a structure, a system, a survival tactic. Without it, even the brightest minds collapse under the weight of their own chaos. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote, "Just as the good order of the militias is the origin of good order in the states, discipline is what enables a city or an army to withstand adversities." What does that mean for you? It means no kingdom, no government, no person can survive long without internal order. A nation's stability reflects the discipline of its leaders. A life's direction mirrors the discipline of the mind that guides it. If you are ruled by impulse, you'll never lead anything. Not your goals, not your relationships, not your future. There is no real authority for someone who can't govern themselves. Machiavelli saw something chillingly accurate. Discipline is not a luxury for peaceful times. It's not something you apply when it's convenient. It is a permanent armor worn every day, especially when things seem calm, because storms always come. And without discipline, they don't just shake you, they break you. For Machiavelli, discipline is what steadies a ruler when fear, anger, or pride try to hijack reason. It's what separates strategy from self-destruction. An undisciplined leader, he warned, is more dangerous to himself than to any rival. Why? Because his downfall doesn't begin with an enemy, it begins with the gaps inside himself that he chose to ignore. Rash actions, thoughtless words, decisions made in the heat of emotion instead of the clarity of planning. These are the cracks that let chaos in. That's why discipline must be more than occasional. It must be a daily ritual, like the repair of a wall that protects against rot, erosion, and time. Machiavelli believed that human nature is inherently weak, vulnerable to pride, fear, and desire. Only through relentless self-awareness can we fight the slow corrosion that lives within us all. And don't think this was only advice for kings. This applies to you, to anyone who wants to be the author of their own life. If you don't rule your thoughts will be ruled by whatever surrounds you, by emotion, by fear, by the opinions of others. And once you're being ruled from the outside, Machiavelli would say, you've already lost your power. You're not in charge of your life. You're just following orders you didn't give. You just haven't fallen yet. Machiavelli took it even further. He compared the human spirit to a battlefield, a place where discipline is the only barrier between triumph and destruction. Imagine this: an army heading into battle without training, no strategy, no discipline, no respect for orders. What do you see? You don't see courage. You see a massacre waiting to happen. Even the bravest soldier will collapse if they panic at the first sign of danger. Even the strongest body will break if it hasn't been trained to resist fatigue. And a mind without discipline, it's exactly the same. For Machiavelli, this is what doomed mercenaries in fragile states. They had numbers but no structure, no internal order, no commitment to command. In his discourses on the first decade of Livy, he wrote, "The orders of a wise captain are not obeyed by undisciplined soldiers." This isn't just about war. It's a deep truth about the mind. If your thoughts are chaotic, if your emotions rebel against your intentions, if your inner world doesn't respect your own decisions, then you can make all the promises in the world, and none of them will stick. You'll set goals but abandon them. You'll dream big but sabotage yourself the moment it gets hard. Because just like in war, without discipline, your own troops, your own thoughts will desert you. For Machiavelli, a small, focused, and disciplined army always beats a large, scattered, untrained crowd, and it's no different inside you. A few well-trained thoughts, repeated, refined, and respected, are more powerful than thousands of half-hearted desires pulling in different directions. Real power doesn't come from how many ideas you have. It comes from how well you control the ones that matter. Now take a moment to be brutally honest with yourself. How many times have you failed, not because you lacked talent, but because you lacked control? How many promises have you broken, not because you couldn't do it, but because you let doubt, fear, or tiredness make the decisions for you? Just as a foolish general loses a war before the battle begins, we lose the fight for our lives the moment we let discipline slip. Discipline, like military readiness, means showing up each day with the same determination, no matter how you feel. It means following the plan, not your mood. It means moving forward even when your body begs for rest, even when your spirit is heavy. Because victory isn't for those who feel ready, it's for those who stay standing even when the path feels impossible. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that battles are not won by brute strength alone, but by relentless order. by preparation that sees what others miss, by discipline that doesn't waver. And your mind? It's a battlefield too. But here's the problem. The modern world elevates feelings and mocks discipline. You're taught to follow your heart, to chase comfort, to seek quick relief. And that's exactly why so many live in quiet defeat, pointing fingers, looking for someone to blame, but never seeing the real cause: their own lack of command. If you want to take back your life, you must take command of your mind. You must become the general of your own inner army. Train your thoughts like soldiers, no leniency, no excuses, no compromise. Because on this battlefield we call life, a lack of discipline is a slow death sentence. Now let's go deeper. If discipline is what builds virtue, that inner strength capable of shaping your own destiny, then we need to understand how Machiavelli contrasted virtù with fortuna. Skill versus luck, control versus chaos. Machiavelli didn't see fate as fair. He saw it as violent, blind, and wild, like a river that destroys whatever stands unprepared in its path. In The Prince, he writes, "Fortune is like one of those impetuous rivers which, when in flood, overflows the plains, tears down trees and buildings, and lifts the soil from one bank to the other. Yet even in such rage men can prepare, building dikes and barriers in times of calm." It's one of the most powerful metaphors in political thought, and it should hit you like a warning bell. The world doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward wishful thinking. It crushes those who wait for the perfect time. If you're not strong enough to lead your life, luck will take over. And luck, as Machiavelli reminds us, is no friend to the unprepared. She favors the bold but abandons the weak. So ask yourself, are you building dikes? Or are you simply hoping the storm won't hit you? Because only those with a trained mind, an unshakable will, and a disciplined core can endure the flood when it comes. And this is where Machiavelli introduces virtù, one of the most misunderstood ideas in his philosophy. It's not virtue in the moral sense. It's not about being good or kind. Virtù is internal power, the strength to act with precision under pressure, the intelligence to adjust when everything shifts, the resilience to move forward when others freeze. Virtù is what allows you to shape the world instead of being shaped by it. And at its heart, virtù is discipline, in action. Virtù isn't just a concept, it's the living force behind those who refuse to surrender when everything collapses. It's the ability to hold your ground when others run, to find solutions where most see only defeat, to resist the easy temptation to blame fate for outcomes you never tried to change. For Machiavelli, great individuals don't depend on luck, they confront it. They don't worship chance, they outsmart it. They build defenses before the storm hits. They train their minds while others are still asleep, wrapped in the lie that things will somehow work themselves out. So ask yourself honestly, how many times have you waited hoping that circumstances would magically improve? How many times have you told yourself not yet, hiding behind the excuse of bad timing? Machiavelli knew what most people fear to admit. Fortune may be unpredictable, but it isn't unbeatable. It only destroys those who stand still. Those who move with strategy, with virtù, reshape fate instead of being reshaped by it. But here's the real challenge. How do we turn this into practice? How do we stop being tossed around by chance and start becoming the architects of our own future? That's what we're diving into now, the great modern lie about discipline and why so many fail at it. Today, the word discipline has been hijacked. It's sold like a product, bundled in motivational slogans, plastered on phone apps, repackaged into colorful planners and productivity hacks. As if one more reminder or habit tracker could win the oldest war humanity has ever fought, the war against the self. This version of discipline, it's a joke. It's convenient to dress up as effort. It's a digital fantasy that Machiavelli would have laughed at. He knew something the modern world tries hard to forget. True discipline is not comfortable. It's not efficient. It's not something you download into your routine. Discipline is pain. It's a confrontation. It's war against every part of you that's soft, lazy, frightened, and fragile. If you've been failing, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been conditioned to chase shortcuts. Taught to believe that if you just found the right routine, everything would suddenly click into place. But real discipline doesn't come from comfort. It's forged in discomfort. It's not about waiting for inspiration, it's about moving forward when you have none. Machiavelli warned, those who wait for the perfect moment are already lost. By the time you feel ready, the storm has already arrived. Preparation must happen during peace. Discipline must be built in quiet hours, on forgettable days, in invisible moments when no one's watching. Because the real power, the kind that lasts, it's built when no one sees you trying. But today's mindset teaches us to treat failure like it's harmless. We're encouraged to over-celebrate tiny wins, to constantly forgive ourselves, to protect our self-esteem at the cost of our standards. And while we soothe ourselves with excuses, our potential withers quietly inside. This new version of discipline is based on emotion, on mood, on vibe, on external environment. But the kind Machiavelli spoke of? It's structural. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for good energy or motivation. It stands like stone, unshaken, immovable. And those who wait for the stars to align, for everything to feel right, live like cattle heading to slaughter, waiting for someone else to decide their path. If you want to build the kind of discipline that shapes empires, you'll need to do what most people never dare. Let go of comfort. Accept that pain is part of the path, not as punishment, but as proof that you are being forged into something stronger. Turn your mind into a battlefield training ground, a place where weaknesses are not tolerated. They're eliminated. And if you've truly grasped the depth of what we've covered so far, then you're ready for the next step, how to build a strategic, unshakable routine using Machiavellian principles. Not theory, not talk, practice. Because if you want to win, really win, you need more than belief. You need to turn discipline into a brutal daily ritual. Not something you hope for, but something you build. It's not enough to understand discipline as a nice concept. You have to build a structure so fortified, so precise, that laziness, fear, and doubt have no space to live. Machiavelli taught that a wise leader doesn't wait for disaster to strike, he prepares before the threat arrives. You must do the same with your mind. Your internal defenses must be built before life tests you. Because if you start each day by checking how you feel before deciding how to act, you've already lost. Victory or defeat doesn't start at noon. It starts in the quiet, early hours of the morning before the world even knows you've entered the fight. Here's the method. 3 parts. 1. Constant vigilance, daily self-observation. Every single day you must inspect your thoughts and behaviors the way a general inspects his army before battle. Ask yourself, where am I slipping? Where are my emotions taking control? Because the tiniest bad habit, a lazy morning, a pointless distraction, a harmless excuse, that's all it takes. These are the cracks in the fortress through which failure creeps in. Picture your mind as a castle. Each act of laziness is a brick removed from the wall. Each moment of procrastination is a siege engine pointed at your own gate. Constant vigilance means acting like a commander. Even in peace, you check the walls. You fix what's broken. You leave no sign of decay unpunished. Eliminate decisions through rigid routine. Here's a truth you may not want to hear. Your brain, if left unchecked, will always choose the easy path. Every choice drains energy. Every hesitation chips away at willpower. And as Machiavelli warned, in uncertain times, hesitation leads to death. So remove the guesswork. Create routines so firm, so automatic that your brain has no room to negotiate. This is not imprisonment. It's the highest form of freedom, the freedom from indecision, distraction, and emotional sabotage. Set your schedule like a soldier receives orders. Wake at the same time. Work with intention. Study. Train. Rest. Repeat. Let's make it real. If you wait until after a long day to decide whether to exercise, guess what? You won't. Your brain will come up with reasons to avoid discomfort. But if training is part of your identity, non-negotiable, then there's nothing to argue about. You don't decide to train. You train. End of story. 3. Relentless reinforcement through consequence. In life, as in war, actions have consequences. Mistakes aren't minor. They're the difference between victory and collapse. So create real consequences for yourself. If you skip your routine, there must be a cost, something tangible, something you feel. Because your mind needs to know. Failure is not an acceptable option. If you don't discipline yourself, the world will do it for you, and it won't be kind. Let's make it real. Here's a practical way to lock in your discipline. Make your commitment public. Say it out loud, share it, declare it. And if you break it, make it hurt. Donate to a cause you disagree with. Tell the people closest to you that you failed. Carry the weight not as punishment, but as proof that your word matters. Because discipline isn't just about chasing rewards. It's about building a life where failure costs something. Think of a soldier in training. He doesn't get to decide whether he runs 5 kilometers in the rain. He doesn't ask, "Am I motivated today?" He runs because there's a chain of command. Because he understands that failure brings consequences, shame, expulsion, defeat. Your mind needs to operate the same way. It must obey not because it feels good, but because it's right. This is the hard truth most won't accept. Building real discipline is putting yourself in chains before life shackles you with worse. It's making toughness your daily ritual. It's waking up without excuses, without pity, and marching forward with the cold clarity of a commander. But now that you know what must be done, here's the deeper question. Why do so many people still sabotage themselves even when they know all of this? It's not a weakness. It's not ignorance. It's a quiet, destructive war we fight against ourselves. A war of hesitation, distraction, self-betrayal. And that's exactly what we'll confront in the next part. Before we go further, let this settle in. Knowledge without action is cowardice. You can hear these words, you can feel their truth. But if you walk away and go back to your old patterns, if you keep serving your impulses and living at the mercy of mood, then you're not in control. You're still being ruled. And yet, a few of you, just a few, will make a different choice. The choice to become the master of your own life. To stop waiting, to stop stalling. To stop hoping someone else will come save you. The choice to build discipline not as a mood, but as a machine. A system. A foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your entire existence. Machiavelli warned, "A prince who governs without discipline invites collapse." Now you know a life lived without discipline is no different. Your mind is your territory. Your habits are your troops. Your choices are your strategies of war. You will either be the prince or the prisoner. There is no in-between. There never was. And maybe you think you still have time, that you can start next week, or next month, or when the pressure fades. But Machiavelli knew those who wait for the perfect moment will be crushed by the first wave of misfortune. The time is now, while you still have energy, while you still have a will to shape. Discipline yourself, not for praise, not for appearance. Discipline yourself because your life depends on it, because your freedom depends on it, because your greatness demands it. If this message spoke to something inside you, take one small step. Write in the comments, "I choose to be my own prince." Not for me, not for others, but for you. So that you remember this moment as the first conscious act of discipline in your new path. This is where your transformation begins. And more importantly, don't stop here. You're still early in the process of forging yourself. Your next decision matters. Your next step defines the next chapter. So keep going, watch, reflect, evolve. This is only the beginning of who you're becoming.